Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Alright, so as you know, for the last 3.5, maybe 4 months or more, I've been watching videos on avoidance because of my own personal recent experience with an avoidant, which was and is a very wonderful experience, but it's also can be a very, very confusing and very painful experience. Now, I actually had this realization about 3 or 4 days ago, and I didn't really realize how important I think it is to get this message out there. Are avoidants doing the same thing to you as their parents did to them? So I'm going to skip to the chase, and I'm just going to tell you right now that yes, that's exactly what's going on. Now, I don't think they're doing it because they're being mean or trying to hurt anyone. It's just because that's what they know. That's the way they were raised. They were conditioned this way, so they think, well, this is the way life is. This is the way you interact with people. Now, I would say most people, not all people, but most people, the way your parents raise you is the way you think, well, this is the way life is. And a lot of people will raise their children in the same way. They'll treat their friends and family and relationships in the same way that they were raised. They're like, well, this is the way you interact with people. When this situation happens, this is how you deal with it, because that's what they saw when they were a kid. Now, some people, and I have a feeling probably the majority of you on here may not have been that way. Like myself, I know I looked at my family like, wow, that's really messed up. And even as a very, very young kid, I had this thing in me. I want to say it was a belief, but I don't know if that's really what you would call it. I just would always watch people, and I would, instead of diving into something, I would kind of take a step back and just watch and see, like, okay, like literally if people are diving off the roof into their pool or something like that, unless I absolutely knew I could do it and it's totally safe, I wouldn't do it. I would watch other people do it and watch them do it right or make mistakes. It was pretty much my approach to learning everything from sports to getting good grades to music to just watching my friends do stupid stuff that would get them hurt, and I would just be like, yeah, I'm going to kind of take a step back, and because this doesn't look like a good idea, let's see what happens. Now, with my family, they would always tell me, you're different, you're different. That's all I heard. I mean, till the last day I talked to him, it was just this, you're different. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at what you're doing. I mean, you're making your brother and sister miserable, and they're making you miserable, and you're making mom miserable, and mom's making you miserable. And I'm just watching this chaotic, like why would you do that? So all I'm saying for that little bit right there is most people, this is what they saw from the first day they were born until they moved out of the house. Like, this is how you deal with all these different situations, because that's how my mother or my father or my uncle or my brother or my sister or whoever, like, this is how they dealt with it. So the second message I want to say is, no, I don't think avoidants are doing any of this stuff on purpose to hurt you. In fact, let me tell you one thing about avoidance that I know. They have so this one person I knew, this was not too long ago, three months ago or so, she had said, yeah, you know, I kind of like pull back and like go into my own world, and then these people that I know are dating or whatever she said, is they will tell me like, that really hurt when you did that. And she goes, I don't understand, like, why would that hurt someone? Now, when I first heard that, I thought, you know, she might be, what's the word for it? I had a friend in high school, like, if you kicked him, he understood, like, that hurts. Ow, don't do that. But if he kicked you and you cried or you yelled or got mad or like, ow, why did you do that? He would look at you like, why are you? And he would literally say, why are you yelling? I don't understand. I mean, he was a little off. He could not, what's the word I'm looking for? He couldn't understand other people's pain. I mean, literally, like the first couple times I saw him do it, I thought, oh, you're just being fake. And my other friend goes, no, like he literally can't understand. Like if you do it to him, he understands that. But if he does that to someone else, he doesn't understand why that person gets mad, hurt, sad, or upset, or why they cry out. So with avoidance, that's not necessarily the case. Here's what it is. So essentially, when avoidants get too close to someone, they pull away and they ghost you. Like they'll just stop talking to you for 5 days, a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, maybe even 6 months. Now here's the deal: when they start getting close to someone emotionally and they start to open up, alarm bells go off, and they feel this tremendous pressure and stress. And so when they stop talking to you, they pull away and they run away or do whatever they do. One thing they'll say about avoidance, the first, like, what is the first stage of when they break up with someone or say, hey, I need my space, etc., and they don't talk to you for a week or so many weeks or months. The very first stage is, oh, what a relief. And for them, it genuinely is a relief because of the way they were raised and how this causes stress. And because they were essentially punished. Now, okay, watch this. I'm going to get into this. They were punished whenever they were open-hearted, whenever they were trying to get close to their parents and love them, etc., etc. They were punished their whole life. So they literally learned, like, oh, love, intimacy, getting close to someone emotionally is not good. And not only that, but pain is going to come. So when they start to open up to someone's like, oh shit, I did it again, I'm going to be punished, I'm going to get hurt. So then what they do after a while, they feel all this pressure, and they run because they run out of fear of, oh no, when is it going to come? When are they going to drop the bomb or the boom? And when are they going to punish? Sorry, I actually cut it off. When are they going to punish me for this? So when they leave you in the very beginning, for the first week, maybe even 3 weeks, maybe even a month or more, it is just like, no pressure. Wow. Whew, escaped out of the danger zone. And it's like freeing experience for them. They feel safe. Now here's the deal. Because pulling away or ghosting makes them feel really good, they assume, well, it makes them feel good too. So when people come back a week or a month later and call them or run into them and say, hey, that really hurt me when you did that, their brain literally gets confused and like, why would that hurt? And again, it's because for them, when they escape out of the situation, it's a big relief. So again, they assume for you too, it's a big relief. So one thing I began to notice as I was interacting with this person over a period of time is she would kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, so this is early on when I really didn't know much about avoidance at all, and this is what triggered me to really start studying it, reading blogs, articles, going to YouTube, watching video after video. And one of the things was I had mentioned something about my business, and she goes, whoa, I think I said something like, if you want, we could work together, blah, 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 make more money or something like that. And she goes, whoa, I think, you got to do that on your own. That's your responsibility. And I just thought it was a really weird thing because I was kind of joking around. In fact, I was joking. I was being very playful about it. And the response was so strong. And that's what it was. It was how strong the response was. It just kind of caught me off guard. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So as I began to learn about avoidance, that's one of the things their parents teach them over and over is like, hey, you got to rely on yourself. You got to take care of yourself. You got to do everything on your own. And that's very much an avoidant thing. And so she was basically reflecting that back onto me. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then when I watched, at least a dozen videos talk about that is, one thing avoidants don't want to do is they don't want to take on any responsibility for other people, okay, which makes sense because, okay, so their family essentially makes them responsible for everyone else's stuff. So you've got to, you got to pay their bills, you got to work for them, you got to do all this stuff for everyone in their family. And then at the same time, they're told, hey, you got to fend for yourself. You got to take care of yourself. Don't ask for help. Asking for help means you're weak. So on the one hand, everyone asks them for help, and then nobody will help them in return. And instead, they're told, oh, don't ask for help. That's weakness. This is a tough world. You got to take care of yourself. You got to be strong. It's manipulation and it's bullshit. So in other words, help us, but we're not going to help you. Not only that, but they don't even want them to ask for help from them. So what they do is they play this game of, oh, that's weakness, and that's not reality, and you've got to stand up for yourself. You got to take care of yourself and do everything on your own. So now they ask them for help, they help them their entire lives, and then the avoidant never asks anybody for help because they've trained them to believe that that's wrong and that's weak. Because they don't want to deal with anyone asking them for help in return. They just want to be the ones getting helped. It's a very selfish system. Now, one thing I want to say is, the thing about avoidance is this, and how to explain this, even though they have these beliefs, because these beliefs are really beaten into them, like, hey, you got to be strong, you got to stand on your own 2 feet, you got to take care of yourself. Asking for help is weakness. That's what it means. It means you're weak, and weakness is bad, and that's what that means. These are just meaning. These are like, remember you guys heard me talk about complex equivalences, this means that? Well, that's what was done to an avoidant, a lot, like literally to death. So they get trained to believe all this bullshit, which is not true. Someone says, well, this means that, if you ask for help, what that means is you're weak, and if you do this, that means that, and blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. So one of the things I want to say to avoidance, if you're an avoidant and you're listening to this, or even if you're an empath, because see, empaths get taught this too. We are very much taught, like, hey, it's like when we ask for people's help, they usually ridicule us and like, oh, it's like one thing they'd like to do is say, oh, I'm too busy. Like, well, what are you doing? I'm watching my favorite TV show, and you're like, whoa, well, like this is really important to me. It's their way of essentially belittling you and devaluing you. So here's what I want to say. It's towards avoidance or anyone. I would say even empaths. If you were raised this way, if you have these beliefs of asking for help means you're weak and you got to stand on your own 2 feet. Human beings have always helped each other throughout, all the way back to the caveman era. Otherwise, you don't survive. You can't move forward in life. You can't get ahead in life if you're not interacting with people. That's just the normal, natural way of nature. Every animal species does this. The beavers do it. Gorillas do it. Monkeys do it. Birds do it. I mean, even fish do it. Really quick, there's a book. I can't think of the name right now. I made another video, but in the book, they talk about when you're born, you're dependent. So you need for your parents to feed you, to clothe you, to clean you, because you can't even walk. You can't do anything. So you are dependent. But once you turn about 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, you're kind of slowly, you can walk. You're starting to learn how to talk and interact with people. And that's the key thing, interact. But for the most part, a 4-year-old child isn't going to survive on their own, even whether it's in the jungle or whether it's on the city streets. Like, you're just not going to survive. So you go through this stage of being dependent. Then once you get about 7, 8 years old, especially when you hit your teenage years, about 13, you start to go into this independent phase. Okay, now you started early in that, but you really kind of hit it, where I want to think for myself. I want to do what I want to do, and that becomes the rebellious teenagers. Now you kind of blend dependency and independency, because you're starting to kind of like, okay, now you can maybe boil water, maybe you can boil an egg, when you're 9 years old or 8 years old or something. So you're kind of slowly figuring things out. And then you fight for your independence, and that's what teenagers are doing. They're fighting, like, I want to do what I want to do. I want to go to college, get the degree I want to get, or I don't want to go to college. I want to be, whatever. But the parents, a lot of times, are still trying to control them. So there's this battle phase until they finally move out, and they're like, I'm going to do what I want to do. So then you really develop this independent stage. Some people tend to cling to the dependency stage, so they depend on their friends or their boyfriend or their girlfriend. So the idea in your 20s is to begin to move forward into that independent stage. Now, that doesn't mean there's like one day, boom, you got to be independent, but there's supposed to be growth and movement in that direction. Now, once you find your independence, you know who you are, you know what your values are, you know what you believe in, and you're doing what you want to do, then you go into the higher phase of interdependence, where you work with other people. So you're independent and they're independent, and you work within a group independently together to support each other. And that's how you gain higher levels of independence. Whereas an avoidant essentially has been shoved into independence at a very young age. They never really went through the dependent stage where they felt like they were taken care of fully and completely. And that's one thing about avoidance. they have this void where they don't feel. Okay, so children that are raised where they're very protected, loved, fed, taken care of, not only physically but also verbally and emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and love-wise, there's a sense of completion in them where they've completed the phase of dependency, and then they move on to independence. Whereas an avoidant is shoved into independence at a very, very young age and taking care of other people. So they never truly get to complete that dependency stage unless when they get away from their family after they're 18, 20 plus years old, and they go fully like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm not responsible for anyone. I don't want anyone to push their stuff on me. And so this is almost like a teenage rebellion phase. And they're just like, look, I'm going to play. I'm going to be a kid. But there's still the phase of completing their dependency phase. So someone who's very loving, very nurturing, and also very solid and very grounded, that kind of person can create a space for this person to basically live out their child and say, look, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be there for you, and I'm going to love you unconditionally. And protect you and provide, and all that stuff that they should have gotten when they were a child. What this will allow them to do is to actually complete the phase of dependency to where now that's complete, and there's a sense of like, okay, it's almost like this space has been filled up and is complete now. Now I can move on in a healthy way into the independent phase, and eventually, hopefully, intradependency down the road where you're sort of interdependent with other people. So believe it or not, I don't remember if I learned this in a psychology class in college or if it was during an NLP. I think it was during an NLP training now I think about it. Essentially, if you don't complete your earlier phases, like your childhood phase, 0 through 5 or through 7 or whatever, or maybe 7 through 13, you will have to go back in some way to revisit that and actually live that out until you developed what you need to develop in that part of your brain before you can fully go into adulthood and become a mature adult. So it's okay, and a lot of people unconsciously will do that. They'll get into a certain type of situation, job, relationship, wherever, where boom, now they get to fulfill their childhood needs, and boom, once they're done, they become an adult. Alright, so one of the things that I've noticed is what they would do a devaluing phase where they kind of cut you down, they pick you apart. And it's technically to what narcissists do, but it's not really the same thing because they're not really attacking you to destroy you. It's more of, well, this is what my parents did to me. This is how you interact with someone that's considered family. Okay, now watch this. Believe it or not, if they're devaluing you, they see you as family. So believe it or not, but that's actually a sign to be like, oh, so they actually like me. Like, yeah, it's a funny thing because they're kind of picking you apart. They're kind of cutting you down. Because I kind of looked out of the side of my eye like, wait, what did you say? Like, it was just, but it was different. It wasn't like, it's not like the narcissist where they're doing like, they have this mean, evil, angry energy behind it. Whereas in avoidant, it's kind of just like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not destroying you. It's almost like a social interaction phase that they had when they were growing up. And so, see, remember, the way we're raised in our family situations is the way we deal with other people. And so it's almost like one of their strategies to socialize. Now, if you're not grounded enough to deal with it, I would not recommend being in a relationship with an avoidant. Unless and or until they become very healthy, they become very healed. And again, one of the things about avoidance is you can heal from this stuff. Like, because I'm an NLP trainer, I understand how things get wired into you. We can unwire this stuff. We can disconnect and unattach connections and then connect them to healthier ways of being. We can create better strategies, healthier strategies. We can teach you communication skills. We can heal deep emotional trauma wounds that happened when you're a child. Now, here's the really important thing. I think it's not only for, avoidance, but I think it's for empaths because we essentially, okay, both of us get beaten down essentially by narcissists. Okay, narcissists create all this stuff. So you can heal from this. So that emptiness you feel inside, that pain, that feeling of like you hurt or you feel like you're wrong and you're putting up this, like, avoidance will put up like a mask, like they're happy all the time, but inside they want to scream and they're hurting. All of that can be healed. So a little, if you haven't picked up on it, in my business, what I do for a living, this is the work that I do with people. I do emotional trauma healing. I'm really good at emotional healing in general. That's something that I just specialize in because I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very feeling emotional based person, and I've been hurt a lot. So that was something that I kind of gravitated towards, and I worked very, very hard at helping people to heal. And all these other things that we're talking about, whether it's avoidant or dealing with narcissist abuse, you get hurt, you have traumas, you have false beliefs. And a real big thing that I think everyone grows up with is we hear these complex equivalences come at us. All that means is like when someone says, well, you know, this means that. Like my mom would say, you know, the more money you have, the more stress you have. So the more money means more stress. Well, that doesn't mean that at all. But in her mind, she believes that because someone taught that to her. Now, when I say someone taught that to her, it literally someone came along and said, hey, the more money you have, the more stress you have. It could have been a movie that she saw, and she goes, oh, okay. See, that thing called complex equivalences, it's kind of a tricky thing because you don't, how do I explain this? All right, let me interrupt this thought real quick. I want to make sure I get this in. So the whole goal is for you to begin to realize what you're doing, whether you're an empath or avoidant, and break the cycle, because this is what they talk about, generational curses, where you're doing the same things to your friends and to your children that your parents did to you, that their parents did to them, and so on. You're the one who's supposed to break the generational curse or the generational cycle by learning from this and stopping it and learning better behavior. Stop doing the old behavior and learn better, more empowering and healthy behaviors. This is breaking the generational curse, and it's breaking the chains. I can help you. You don't really evaluate those statements. They kind of slip on through. That one cause and effect, and a couple other ones. People say, well, this means that, or this causes that. And a lot of times, like, that doesn't cause that at all. This doesn't mean that at all. But because it's phrased in a way that your brain is wired to just automatically accept, you accept something without ever stopping and validating and go, wait a minute, is this true? Or asking the person, well, how do you know that this means that? Well, like according to what? Who says? So from a very young age, childhood on, even as adulthood, a lot of people will say these things to you and like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that. And boom, you just accept it without even thinking about, is it true or not? We can reframe these things. We can change them back into more empowering beliefs, or just back into reality of, yeah, that's not true at all. Alright, this is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. If you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, and go ahead and make a comment. And if you want to support this channel, there's a PayPal link right there in the description box. You can leave a donation, or you can buy one of my dating relationship books. Alright guys, God bless you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.